If you've been following my coverage of what's been happening in East Palestine, you know that I am particularly perturbed over what's going on in this small town and what the Biden administration has done. For those that aren't familiar, there was a train derailment, a chemical spill, a controlled burn, chemicals blanketed the area. And you know what really grinds my gears? Chickens died. We got a video of a lady. Her chickens are all dead. That crosses the line. Now, in all seriousness, I am actually upset to see someone's backyard chickens are dead. People care about their animals. And it's not just about chickens. Some guys, foxes, there's dead birds, there's dead fish. You get J.D. Vance scraping the ground of a creek and chemical plume bursts up. Then you get the media lying about it. And you get Joe Biden traveling halfway around the world to a country most Americans don't know or care about to give $500 million. And he says to these people, so what? Now we got people like the Krasensteins, liberal commentators being like, Joe Biden's in a war zone, fighting a dictator. And, Trump is doing a photo op. And I'm just like, that's it. Your Krasensteins come out and say that Trump is doing the bare minimum. He brought a few pallets of water. So what? And I'm like, and Biden couldn't even do that. Okay. This one really pisses me off for a lot of reasons. It's the American people, working class Americans, who are being ditched to the gutter, living in this area where their home, the property value is probably zero now. No one's going to want to buy a house there. Animals are dying. They got one grocery store taking water bottles off the shelves, scared over what might be in the water. And now we got this. Savannah Hernandez, shout out, she's been on Timcast IRL before, doing real journalism. Confronting Pete Buttigieg, who shows up only after Trump. And, I got to be honest. Often when I see these gotcha ambush questions, I roll my eyes. Savannah Hernandez asks a very simple question to the press secretary and to Buttigieg. Why did you only come after Donald Trump? Why weren't you here right away? That's a legitimate, real question that I would like to hear an answer on. And Pete Buttigieg need only say something like, look, we were trying to assess the situation. We were getting varying reports. He could have made up any excuse. Instead, Buttigieg ignores a simple question that people want to know about, ignores, and what I would consider an opportunity to get his statement out. He just leaves. This I can't stand. I have seen man on the street questions, reporter questions that make me gag or laugh. You'll see a politician, they'll be like, why are you the Illuminati or something? And it's like, okay, guy, come on. Like, we've got real questions here. The real question is, why did Pete Buttigieg not come down to this town? It was in the news. We knew this was happening. It's going to affect potentially millions of people's drinking water. Why is Biden not here? Why did Buttigieg not show up? Simple, legitimate question. Let me play the video for you. And then, to tack on and make it all so much worse, the press secretary for this guy basically says, I will not answer questions on camera. What, you don't want the American people to hear a simple statement? You have nothing to hide. Just tell us. Just be honest with us. I live in West Virginia and we are downwind from where they burned off all these chemicals. And we have to ask hard questions about, are we going to be concerned about the hydrogen chloride, potential acid rain? It was raining recently. Do I got to be concerned about my animals? Why is it that the Biden administration is ignoring this? I'm being personally impacted and nowhere near the degree of the actual people who live there, who are they're losing everything because of this. And the best we can get is Pete Buttigieg ignoring the question. Let me play this video for you. I'm sorry, man. What Joe Biden did, sneaking off to Ukraine, because already my attitude on the Ukraine war is it sucks. I don't like Vladimir Putin. I like Ukraine. Awesome food, awesome people. This war is not something the U.S. should be involved in. Perhaps aid, perhaps we can uphold. I understand we have a treaty. I know it's very, very complicated. I'm sick of the interventionist policy. To make it all worse, a disaster occurs in our backyard in Ohio, and Joe Biden is nowhere to be found. So, you know what? I'll say thank you to Donald Trump, because at the very least, by him showing up, and I really do feel, I am moved by Donald Trump being there. Okay, he doesn't need to do this. It's an opportunity for him. I get it, photo op. Buying Big Macs, having a laugh, bringing what he can there. I will take it, because the Biden administration in the middle of the night just disappears and goes off to Ukraine. That being said, Donald Trump's action has put the spotlight on this town, and it's getting our focus onto this town where they need help. And now we're seeing people are gifting more than just the water that Trump brought. Trump, by doing this, he brought the spotlight with him and he forced people like Buttigieg to address the problems this country is facing. And it wouldn't happen without someone like Trump. That's why I say this makes me feel like he's a leader. Let me play the video so you can actually see it. Otherwise, I'm going to keep ranting because this is the kind of stuff that really grinds my gears.
Half weeks to actually get here to respond to East Palestine.
Let's just start over.
Mayor Pete, why did it take you an entire 2.5 weeks to actually get here to respond to East Palestine? Will you apologize to the residents of this city for the slow response, to the government's slow response? Do you have any apology?
I'm a press person.
That was great. That was great. I'm going to say it again. You probably see the same thing I do, where sometimes you'll get someone on the ground, they'll see a politician, and they'll ask them a question. You're just like, dude, what? Come on. Savannah asked him something very simple. Why did it take 2.5 weeks? Do you have an apology for the slow response? The locals have been complaining exactly about that. Excellent work, Savannah. I'm this whole thing.
Sure.
Here we go.
So can we ask why it took him almost 3 weeks to get here?
I'm sorry, I don't want to do this on camera.
What was his personal time off while there was a tragedy
How
happening?
smart. And
And can we also ask
Off camera, I don't want anyone to hear what I actually have to say. Why? Is it because she's going to say something like, yeah, we were under political pressure because Donald Trump, who we know is running for president, showed up and we had no choice but to be here. This, you know what, man? It's crazy to me that this idea that America first is in any way, by anyone's metric, bad. It's like you have to put on your own oxygen mask before putting on the mask of the people around you. Hey, man, I like Ukraine. I do. I like the people. I don't like what Putin is doing. It's causing problems. I'm not going to sit here and ignore the U.S.'s role in the conflict. Don't get me wrong, especially with Gazprom, Biden, all that stuff. I don't like any of that stuff either. I don't know why we decide to fight a war there. And I don't know why the president thinks it's a bigger priority than the American people. Mayor Pete, even the Daily Mail's covering this one. Check this out. Pete Buttigieg has another run-in with reporters. Press secretary criticizes aggressive and inappropriate media for asking if he will apologize to East Palestine 20 days after the train derailment. I got to say it again. These were very basic journalist questions. It took you 3 weeks. The people of this town have complained. Do you have anything to say? Will you apologize? No. I can't do it. I can't stand it, man. It's Donald Trump is accused of being this nasty, bad guy, and he shows up with food and water to give out to people. Giant Eagle, nearby, a grocery store, is pulling certain water from the shelves that they sell because it's bottled nearby East Palestine. Now, why would they do that? When the government comes out and says the water is safe, go ahead and drink it. Who are you going to sue? Yourself? You sue the government. They take your tax dollars to pay you back. What's that going to accomplish? A private business. They get sued. Their profits. That's where the money comes from. So you take a look at a private business. They're saying, hey, look, there's a real risk if people drink this water that we bottled. Something bad could happen. Pull it off the shelves. They're willing to lose money. Let me make sure this is clear for you guys. The government said the water's safe. A large private business corporation is losing money because they don't believe the government. This is what bothers me. All of this, when it comes to Donald Trump, he's a guy who shows up and brings food and water to these people. Benny Johnson, shout out for the 80th time, shows up and does a video where he hands $1,000 checks to the people who live around the area. I wish Benny could give more. I wish Benny Johnson would get 100 million views on that video of him actually doing something. I wish that we would all go viral on the internet when we did right by our fellow Americans, by our fellow man, by the world. So the people can come out and say, oh, Benny was trying to get a viral video. Good. Man, amazing. A guy who's like, I know how to go viral. I'm going to help people. Awesome. Do more of it. Donald Trump, I'm going to get elected president by helping the American people. Thank you. Please do more of it. I have always had this position that whether or not you believe someone was doing right or they were seeking opportunity, if the end result is a net positive, I will take it. Would I prefer an altruistic guy who shows up with a mask on, you don't know who it is, and Trump secretly shows up in the middle of the night giving out free stuff because he doesn't want to take any credit for it, he just wants to help people? That'd be fantastic. But I tell you what, if Donald Trump shows up in a blimp that says Trump, that's hanging giant banners, a Zeppelin, and then he starts throwing down, parachute food and everything, saying, oh, vote for me, I'd be like, well, if we get a president who thinks he has to win, that thinks his path to victory is helping people, even in the slightest, it certainly would be better than a president who takes $500 million, flies halfway around the world to a place most Americans don't know about. And, it all comes down to this. Pete Buttigieg shows up in the wee hours of the morning to meet with bureaucrats and clean up. Okay, like I will take it, right? I'm not going to rag on Buttigieg for finally showing up. That I will accept as a net positive. I think Trump gets all the credit. I think the only reason they showed up is because Donald Trump made them show up. I had to wonder. Some people were saying last night, do you think they're going to show up and get booed? I'm not going to rag on Pete Buttigieg for some tribal BS. I am going to outright state what we saw in that video from Sav. She asked him a question that people wanted answered. He didn't answer it. Come on, bro. These people deserve a few minutes of your time. You can be an honest guy and just say, I'm sorry we couldn't get here sooner. I genuinely mean it. We're here now. We're here for you. Let us know what we can do. Simple answer. They can't even do that. I hate the plasticity of politics of the corporate world. I hate the fact that people can't just be authentic and honest. I hate the fact that the press secretary says, turn your cameras off. Here's the reality, I think. Joe Biden's a guy who thinks he can win an election without actually doing anything for the American people. That's the reality. He hid in his basement when he campaigned. He putting a lid on the pressers, no press statements, nowhere to be found, and the Democrats went ballot harvesting, and the media ran the campaign for him. They demonized Trump. Right now, let's talk about this. Vivek Ramaswamy, I think he's a good dude. Where's he at? Serious question. Why is he not in East Palestine? Nikki Haley, she's running. What's her big priority? Don Lemon called her old. I'm not trying to rag on Vivek or Nikki Haley for not being here. I'm asking this question. Why aren't they there? And again, Nikki Haley, I'm, neutral. I don't really care. Vivek, I think is a good dude. My question is not to say they did something wrong by not being there. My question is, why is it that Trump is? What about these three campaigns? Now, don't get me wrong. Vivek just announced, so maybe a little unfair. But what is it about Donald Trump's campaign strategy where he is the only candidate right now? He's the only candidate for 2024 announced who is showing up and helping these people. That should tell you everything you need to know about what's going to happen when you get a new president in 2024 or an old one. Joe Biden is the guy who will leave you hanging and spend your money on a foreign country. Donald Trump is the guy who will personally fly in and go to McDonald's with first responders after delivering pallets of food and water. That's the president I'd rather have. And I don't think I think it's a no-brainer. Trump's got an ego. Trump is arrogant. Trump has got, he's very emotional. Yep. Certainly think so. And in that, for whatever reason, he said, you know what's going to help me win an election? Showing up to a disaster site and helping people. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually supposed to be what we expect from our politicians. That is a glimpse of what we thought being a leader was supposed to be. Instead, you get this. You get viral videos of, you get 600,000 views from this video posted just a couple hours ago of the press secretary for Buttigieg being like, nope, smirking at them. Like, what is this? What's funny about journalists asking you why you weren't there? You know, man, I think it's because in the world of establishment politics, watch any of these political shows. They don't care about you. You're a number. You're a stat. Trump, what's he going to do? Earn another 5,000 votes? He's going to go to a town of 5,000? Maybe the message will be spread that Trump will show up to the smallest town, to a disaster, to do the right thing. I don't see DeSantis, but to be fair, DeSantis didn't announce he's running and he's the governor of Florida. But this is another issue I got to bring up. I've gone back and forth on DeSantis or Trump. Back a year ago, I'm hanging out the Daily Wire and I was like, I'm thinking DeSantis for a lot of reasons. The tact. And now Trump is getting back in the swing of things. And what I see here is I'll give DeSantis a chance because I really do like him. He's got good policy. But I see DeSantis doing the political rounds. I see Trump getting his hands dirty. Figuratively, I don't think Trump's actually picking up any dirt or anything like that. But figuratively, he's going to where it matters. This is why Trump won in 2016. He got 3 states by about 88,000 votes. It was a close call. Nobody wanted Hillary Clinton. But it's because Trump was willing to go to places people rejected. This is a fact. Look it up. There were several areas of the country that had low voter turnout that lit up and turned red for Trump. I was in Fort Lauderdale, and I was talking to some middle-aged woman who was at a Trump rally, and I said, why are you voting for Trump? Are you a Republican? And she said, I'm not a Republican. I'm independent. I never actually voted before. And I said, wow. And you're here for Trump. And she goes, Trump's talking about things we care about. Trump's talking to us, not to them, not to the media. So this is all becoming one big referendum on the 2020 election. Who was right and who was wrong? Biden, who hid from the American people, has proven time and time again he will not be there. And to the Krasensteins, bro, you can post, for those who aren't familiar, they're liberal commentators. You can post how Joe Biden's in a war zone fighting a dictator. And I'm like, what will that do for the suffering American citizens who are going to vote in a year and a half? Nothing. I'm supposed to be proud that Joe Biden prioritizes a country on the other side of the planet over our own? Dude, I am not voting for Eastern European stability. What do I want? I want good foreign policy. I want peace. But watching Joe Biden fan the flames of war, ignore the American people, right after we had a Donald Trump who brought peace to a certain degree in the Middle East with the Abraham Accords, who's negotiating peace in the Korean Peninsula, who's getting NATO to pay their fair share, who's setting a deadline for the extraction of our troops out of Afghanistan, pulling our troops out of Syria, decimating ISIS. Yeah, Joe Biden represents neglect, abandonment, and war, and he always has. This one, you know, what really bothers me about the East Palestine story and why it's got me so worked up is that it was an easy one. It was an easy one for Biden. The simplest and easiest thing. Show up, take a picture, send in your boys, leave. He couldn't even do that. And so everything I feel like I've been saying, you've been saying, other people have been saying about why the Democrats are garbage and why Biden is a bad man and a bad president is exemplified. And it feels like a hard I told you so. How is it that so many people would vote for this man? This is why some people can't believe anybody did. And I get it. So many people are like, there's no way that you see someone like this and they're going to vote for Biden. I disagree. It's the media machine. It's the lies. It's Buttigieg getting his photo op. Here's the funny thing. You want to talk about a photo op, Buttigieg? Said, I don't want to just show up and make a photo op like Trump. Someone said, I don't know if it was Buttigieg who directly said that. Buttigieg shows up in a hard hat and a vest to meet with bureaucrats literally for a photo op. Donald Trump met with the people and went to McDonald's with them. I don't care if you want to call it a photo op or not. Buttigieg is running from a reporter, refusing to answer questions. A simple one that the people of this town are asking. Why did it take you 3 weeks to come out here? Tell us why. Be honest with us. We're hearing that a large chemical plume is heading into West Virginia. Hey, that's where I live. In the western part of the state. I live in the eastern part of the state, but I don't care. I come to West Virginia because I see something good. We're in New Jersey, something bad. I'm in New York, something bad. And so I talked to some friends, say West Virginia. I say, you know what? It's close enough to major metro areas. You got airports within an hour in a couple different directions, 2 hours in one direction. You got Pittsburgh over here. You got DC over here. You got Richmond down here. It's a good place to be away from the cities, but still close enough that we can bring in from major airports, different thought leaders. And the more important thing is West Virginia is MAGA country. 86% Trump supporting. Do I agree with every view and every opinion of all the Trump supporters? No, I don't. But do I agree with America first? Well, yes. That's what they tell you when you're on an airplane. Put your own mask on before somebody else's. How could anyone think otherwise? Now I'm hearing that there is a chemical plume heading downriver, which will negatively impact the water base for West Virginians and Ohioans, but West Virginians. This is very personal now. I'm trying to invest in this state. I want to build and bring jobs to this state because I believe in its people, because these people are clearly, in my opinion, a lot smarter than a lot of other people in that they would vote for someone like Trump because they are paying attention, not like the cult members who would blindly vote for a Joe Biden by mail or something. And they're causing damage to it. And the Biden administration has left us all high and dry. In fact, the New York Times claimed it was all lies. When people were saying that the spill could affect the water table for people downstream, they said, with no evidence. Yeah, no evidence except the governor of Ohio saying quite literally it is happening. So why should now the surrounding areas be facing this chemical spill? Where is Biden? He ignored it. And I bet they were hoping nobody would notice. And thankfully, we have someone like Donald Trump who says, I'm going down there. Donald Trump's an old man. It's a fact. But he decided to hop on Trump Force One, bring a bunch of materials from his properties to give away. And he's being criticized for it. I think it should be obvious to anybody. When you're in trouble, Donald Trump will try his best. Joe Biden will leave. It's funny. I like cats, right? You like cats? I like dogs too. I like dogs better, but cats are all right. We got Mr. Bocus. He's our cat. Let me tell you a story. I would always hear about what do pets do when your house is on fire? And my dad's a firefighter, so I heard these stories. You show up to a house where there's a fire and the family has a dog. And what do you discover? The door blocking the dog. So let's say the dog's in the kitchen or downstairs, or there's a door to the owner's room, scratched up, maybe even with blood from their paws being bloody, because the dog is desperately trying to get the door open to alert the people that it loves that something is wrong. And then I was asked, do you know what happens to a house that's on fire and they own a cat? Do you know what happens to the cat? And I'm like, no, what happens? I go, neither do we. Never find it afterwards. When the fire happens, the cat just leaves. But it makes sense. Cats are ambush predators. They're independent. They're little anarchists. I like them. But I expect that from them. I got another one for you. Do you know what happens to an old man? Do you know what happens when there's an old man who has a dog and the old man dies? What happens to the dog? What I'm told is they come in because no one will hear from the person for a few days, and they'll find the dog malnourished, dehydrated, or dead from both. The dog will lay down next to his owner and just pass. The dog is there for you, loyal and willing to stand by you. Do you know what happens to a person when they die and they have cats? I think you know. The cat will eat the person. Again, I don't blame cats. It's in their nature. It's like the parable of the scorpion and the frog. The scorpion says to the frog, can you give me a ride across the river? And the frog says, no, because you'll sting me and then we'll both die. And the scorpion says, why would I do that? If I do, we both die. And the frog says, good point. So then the frog says, okay, hop on my back. They start swimming out into the middle of the river and the scorpion stings the frog and the frog goes, why? Now we're going to die. And the scorpion says, because it's in my nature. It's not an absolute truth. And some people will try and use that to justify, being racist or whatever. What it means to me is, with Joe Biden, you know what you're getting, and you don't want it. You don't got to be mad about it. You don't got to cry about it. You can simply say, not for me. With Donald Trump, same thing. Except when it comes to being in trouble, there's a reason why you vote for people, right? To lead and do the right thing and to help. Biden is the opposite of that. Trump exemplifies that. And if at the end of all of this, the only real truth is that Trump is a narcissist and he thinks by going down to East Palestine, it'll make everybody love him, that still says a whole lot. Even if the only reason Trump did it was so that everyone would adore him. Yeah, okay, yeah, he's right. Yeah, bringing food and emergency supplies to people suffering a crisis actually will, yes, I will give you admiration for that. And if that's the only reason he did it, so be it. At least it helped. Joe Biden, what's his thing? Oh, a war in Ukraine. I'd like to see real leadership. So these are the kind of things that has me saying Trump 2024. DeSantis is too middle of the road. I don't see him coming down here, but he can't because he's got his formalities. He can't announce he's running until, who knows when. And so of the people who've announced, Nikki Haley, Vivek, potentially Ron DeSantis hasn't announced yet, but potentially Trump is the only candidate for 2024 who's actually showed up to help people. Again, if the only reason he did it was so that you would give him love and respect, vote for the man who thinks he earns love and respect by helping you, not the guy who flees the country. Shout out to Savannah Hernandez. This was awesome. I'm going to say it for the 80th time because I really do mean this. I see so much of this man on the street questions being thrown at people, and almost all the time it's some dumb question. And you're like, ask a question we want the answer to. And Sav nailed it. Why did it take 3 weeks to come? Will you apologize to the people? Because that's what they're asking for. He can't do it. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.